to the Dream 100 Show, the epicenter of influence, collaboration, and exponential growth. You're about to discover the power of relationships. Dream 100 relationships. And you're one relationship away from a totally different business and life. This is your host, Michael Tasner.
Hey there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Dream 100 Show. I am absolutely thrilled for our guest today. His name is Josh Nelson. He not only runs a 7-figure digital marketing agency, but he also has another company called 7-Figure Agency, where he's training hundreds and hundreds of agency owners to get to 7 figures and beyond. Josh, welcome to the Dream 100 Show.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
So what I love about this is that you're actually one of my mentors, and I've had the privilege to be a member of your mastermind and one of the original members. So it's been a lot of fun to just continue to see how everything has evolved. But I want to take a couple of steps back on your story and tell our listeners just a little bit more about your background. And let's start at the plumbing and HVAC SEO stuff. So just talk a little bit about that and then kind of how that company started to grow.
Yeah, so I started plumbing and HVAC SEO back in 2011 as Click Incorporated, a generalist digital marketing agency. Quickly determined that trying to be a generalist wasn't the best way to grow and scale, and kind of decided to focus exclusively on the plumbing and HVAC vertical. Long story short, grew that to 7 figures over about a 2-year span of time. Have grown to multiple 7 figures over the last couple of years, made the Inc. 5000 list in that agency 4 years in a row. And over the years, people started asking, like, hey, Josh, how come your agency is growing so quickly? Like, what is it that you did differently? And with that, we started 7-Figure Agency to just show our exact model. Choose a niche, position yourself as an expert, positioning a place to get clients to come to you pre-positioned to buy. And, we're on this mission to help, like you said, 500 agencies go to 7 figures and multiple 7 figures over the next 5 years.
Love it. So I know at Plumbing and HVAC, you teach a lot of different frameworks to laser in on the Dream 100 relationships. And I know you talk about associations and speaking gigs and obviously growing your authority. And that starts to lead to connections and relationships. Can you maybe give us an example of a relationship or two or a strategy or two that has really helped move that particular marketing agency forward?
Yeah, for sure. Because if you think about it, in any niche as an agency, you could serve the entire market. In plumbing, for instance, there's over 100,000 plumbing companies. To market to 100,000 plumbing companies, it's almost impossible, right? And so one of the strategic partnerships that we found early was to join the National Plumbing Association. And we kind of took that 100,000 prospects down to like 5,000 or so. And we found that the smaller we made the group of people we were prospecting, the harder we could go into that group, the more aggressive we could get with touching them in different ways. And we could become omnipresent in their world. And I would say even beyond that, if you're looking for like one strategic relationship that made a big difference, was going from just the National Plumbing Association to the subgroup called QSC. So in plumbing, there's the National Association, and then there's Quality Service Contractors Group, which is just about 300 of the top contractors in that association. And when we started focusing our time and attention on that little subpopulation of the best, we really saw accelerated growth within the business. And probably our first, 100 clients, the lion's share came from that particular subgroup in the association.
No, and that's an extremely powerful lesson. So I hope our listeners are really taking note to how you said, instead of casting this net of, okay, great, there's 100,000 plumbing companies, for example, in the US, that you then took that to 5,000, and then you took it a step further and you really started to focus on those 300, but rather than continuing to go broad and just spitballing your message all over the place and using that shotgun approach, you guys honed in on those relationships and really made sure that you were omnipresent, as you said, and kind of staying top of mind with those relationships.
Absolutely.
I know that you've used it in many ways, the strategy of gifting. Can you give me maybe a couple of examples of kind of how you've used the gifting strategy? And I know that you take it a step further. I know you do welcome gifts for new clients. I don't know if you do, or or deploy kind of a gifting strategy before someone becomes a client or a relationship. But you tell our listeners a little bit more about how you've kind of strategically leveraged the power of gifting.
Absolutely. So, just like you guys do here at the Dream 100, the idea is you can't gift everybody, but you can gift your top prospects, the one you want to get the attentions of. And so, one of the early strategies we used was we published our book, How to Triple Your Sales by Getting Your Internet Marketing Right. One of the first gifts we mailed out to almost all of our Dream 100 prospects was a copy of the book with a cover letter and, some compelling copy on why they should come to us. You quickly find, though, that the book about yourself is only going to get you so far. And so we've mailed cookies, we've mailed pizza, we've mailed things just to get their attention so that we can get them on the phone so that we can ultimately have that opportunity to discuss possibly doing business.
Love it. So if I then kind of springboard over to the seven-figure agency group and mentorship. So you mentioned that kind of started as a result of people seeing your rapid growth. From a relationship standpoint, have there been any key relationships or key strategies that have really helped kind of catapult that business? Because I know, much like your agency, that business, seven-figure agency, also made it to the Inc. 5000 as well. So you're seeing insane growth at that business as well. What are some of the strategies by way of either Dream 100 or gifting or strategic relationships that you've used to help grow that particular business?
Yeah, I would say one of the key things that helped us launch seven-figure agency way back when it was just an idea was, okay, I've got this idea. I can show agencies how to choose the niche and position yourself, but I didn't have any list in the industry other than a couple of people that I'd met with. But there was someone that was an influencer in the space. His name is Mike Cooch. Still an amazing person in the digital marketing training space. And I went to Mike and said, hey, I'm going to be launching this course. Can we launch it together? And we formed a little joint venture. Mike put me out in front of his entire database. We did a webinar. We launched the training. And that was really the springboard where we got our first 30 or so members, which at the time they were just buying a course. And of course, that's developed over time from a single course into a online portal, into a coaching mastermind community that is much more than it was when it started. But yeah, that singular relationship, I think, was critical to get us that initial momentum.
How did was it just kind of cold outreach? How did you kind of, I guess, nurture that relationship or move that to the point where you go from, he's really not technically sure who you are, to, hey, I'm willing to promote you to my entire database? Yeah,
so I was actually in Mike's program as a student. So I was one of the members kind of learning from him in addition to a bunch of different training. I'm a big student of the game. So I'm in all of these different programs and trainings. But I was in his program and I learned a lot from him. And he invited me to come, be interviewed on his show and saw that I had some great insights to share. And so we had kind of that mutual trust and respect, prior to forming that joint venture launch.
That's an interesting strategy. So when a lot of our listeners are looking at kind of putting together their Dream 100 list and they start to kind of build the relationship, they're starting their social media outreach, they might deploy the gifting strategy. We teach to start a podcast and then invite your Dream 100 to that podcast. I love the idea of also look at some of those people that you're going after. Look at, do they have a course? Do they have a mastermind as a way to start to kind of cut a couple of those lines to springboard things a little bit faster? So you said you were a student of that group, and I'm assuming that if you weren't a student, that it probably would have taken you a bit longer, and maybe it never would have came to fruition had you not had that relationship, invested some money to start to build that relationship as well.
Yeah, it's a great point. And to be clear, this wasn't like an intentional, I joined his program and, decided how I would, reverse this. But
sure.
The reality is, find the people that you want to align with. If they've got books, if they've got courses, if they've got seminars, become a buyer of their stuff and form that relationship. Don't just think that they're automatically going to, want to help you.
No, that's a great point. Now, I appreciate you clarifying that. There's only some things that you can obviously kind of pay your way onto, but with these types of relationships, that's the key word. It's relationship, and kind of people at certain levels are going to very quickly see through the BS if they think, oh, you just paid $5,000 for 6 months of coaching and you're really trying to reverse sell. You have to show up. You have to put in the work. You have to make an impact, a contribution, a difference to the other people that are in that room. If I look at seven-figure agency as a whole, what would you say are maybe some of the traits of some of the most successful members in that particular group?
I think some of the biggest traits are speed to implementation. I think if I look at the members that are most successful, they're the ones that get an idea and they just hit the ground running. They're not looking for perfection, but they're looking for, let's get something started. And then they take massive action. Like they're the kind of people that they'll try something, they'll keep going at it, but they're also intelligent enough to say, hey, you know what? This isn't working for me in this particular space, and take that feedback and make adjustments. But a lot of different things, but I think speed to implementation is one of the biggest criteria of the most successful members.
I would say just in being in the group as well, I think another thing that starts to separate out a lot of the members as well is those people that show up and they are there to help serve with no agenda.
Right.
They want to, similar to your mission of helping 500 plus agencies get to 7 figures and beyond. A lot of the members that I seem to at least do well from an appearance standpoint, they're showing up and they're contributing to the group and they're posting feedback and giving ideas, and they're not saying, okay, great, here's an idea on how to grow your sales, and here's a link to my sales course, but rather, here are a couple of things that worked for me. If I can help you in any way, gratis, please feel free to ping me.
100%. Yeah, they're quick to implement. They're taking massive action, and they really believe learn, do, teach. Like they believe once they learn it, the best way to really master the skill is to teach it to others. And they do that as a way to give back, right? And I think that's one of the reasons the community is as powerful as it is, because we've got several hundred agencies that have grown to 7 figures that are just as happy to learn and share with the other members as they would be if they were getting paid to do it.
I love that point of kind of learn, do, teach. The framework of kind of giving and being of service works a heck of a lot better when you can authentically show that you've done something. Like it's really easy to go and kind of read a book or read a post on social media, watch somebody's YouTube video and say XYZ. But when you're actually putting this stuff into practice, your message is going to come across a lot more impactful and authentic as well.
Absolutely.
If I look at you casting a vision for the 7-figure agency, outside of numbers, are there, I guess I would ask the question a little bit differently. Is there a legacy piece for you behind this? So like if you're looking at, you as a whole and wanting to kind of leave a legacy, are there a couple of things that come to mind that really kind of spark you and kind of keep you in the game and motivated each day? I
love the idea of helping digital marketing agencies grow their businesses so they can make more money, have more freedom, have a bigger impact. And, as I think about it, I'm not giving numbers, but the mission of the company is to help 500 agencies go to 7 figures and multiple 7 figures. That's a $500 million impact on an annual basis, just in the revenue generated by those agencies. But more important than that is we're seeing the agency owners' lives change. Something happens when you get above 7 figures and you've got healthy profitability where you're able to, have some of the luxuries you would have never been able to afford before. And you're able to set up your business in a way that doesn't require you to work 60 hours every week, but to have the freedom that you really want. Like literally their lives are being changed. And so they're having more money. They're hiring people as a function of that freedom and developing those careers. And then if they're doing this right, a big part of this is delivering world-class results to your clients. And so the ripple effect of every single one of these agencies on the clients that they serve and the employees that they have, it's a multi-billion-dollar impact across the entrepreneurial landscape. And so from a legacy perspective, it's the lives that are being changed that are most exciting for me.
Love it. Just having, a vision that is, even bigger than what you ever can imagine. Even just on the surface of the financial side, $500 million and an impact, not only then that cascading effect of the 500 agencies that are employing hundreds, not even hundreds, it would be thousands at that scale of team members and helping tens of thousands of clients. So as you said, they're then helping their clients kind of stay in business, get better results, and just kind of continue that cycle of small business. I know that you've used a phrase, stage time is money time. And speaking is a really great way to grow your authority, get on the right stages. Do you have any tips for our listeners that are maybe looking at how they could get into the game of speaking or speaking at an industry event or an association or even a client event? Any strategies or tips that you would suggest there?
Yeah, I think some of the best things you can do is there's continuing education happening in your industry, whatever niche you happen to be in. First place to start is to join that industry group and be at some of those events, right? They're not usually just going to bring you on the stage day one. In my case, just kind of going back in history, right? We joined the National Plumbing Association. When are these plumbing events happening? Where are they? And we got a little booth, little 6x6 booth, and we stood out there and we handed out our flyers and we got some business for that. But while we were there, we were like, hey, where are these speaking opportunities cropping up? And so we started to connect with the people that run those groups and say, hey, what does it look like to become a speaker? We can absolutely add some value on this front. And there wasn't a lot of interest right at the beginning, but we started putting out content, doing webinars on a monthly basis. We published our book, How to Triple Your Sales by Getting Your Internet Marketing Right. We made sure that the people that run those events have them. And while they didn't put us on the national stage right out of the gates, what we were able to do is find that there's like statewide chapters that get together a couple times per year. And so we landed an opportunity to speak at the Miami Plumbing Contractors Association, right? It was a little speaking opportunity. They gave me 15 minutes and I was able to record that from the back and start to develop my speaking credibility, right? Which starts with confidence and having something important to say, but then also the confidence of other association leaders seeing that you've been able to present, you've been able to add value. And then we started going around to the various state chapters. And I'm talking about small groups of 20 to 30 people at various states across the country. And over time, it led to us getting those national speaking opportunities at the National Association Convention and things like that.
So there you guys have it. So what Josh is sharing is kind of hitting those singles, as I like to say, each and every day. So you're hitting the single by you're joining the association and you're kind of learning about the game of speaking at that association. You're hitting the singles of being consistent and putting out really great content. And again, if you have to keep going, great, you might want the big, huge event, the national event that has thousands of people. But until you've demonstrated your authority and you've started to build that street cred, it's a bit of a challenge. So keep hitting those singles, as Josh said, and look at what's kind of, maybe it's a chapter event, and love the idea of making sure that you're recording it so that you have that and you can shoot over the video if someone says, hey, do you have any video of you speaking as well?
Yeah, Michael, another strategy that I know you guys are big fans of is to have your own podcast and invite those leaders onto your podcast and ask them some questions, feature them. Then you've developed a relationship with them beyond just being a sponsor, but now you're kind of co-creating content. And that can open doors as well.
No, 100%. As long as you make it about them, I think one of the big mistakes that I see a lot of people make is they invite someone on for the podcast and then they assume, well, just because they came on my podcast, after the podcast is over, I'm going to say, oh, is there any way we can do some business together? Or, hey, have you ever thought about being a joint venture? You still have to work that relationship. The podcast it's a great foot in the door. It kind of takes the person on the other side from not knowing a ton about you to accelerating the relationship a bit, but you still have to put in that work afterwards and show them where it got posted and make sure that you promote it. I'm a huge fan of putting some social dollars behind it so they don't go and see,
crickets.
Let's say it's on YouTube, for example, they see 2 views, but hey, I just want to let you know, I really value your time and I threw $500 at YouTube to get you some publicity as well. We've already gotten 19,000 views, for example.
Yeah, I think what you said is important, like the intent of the interview. If it comes off like your intent was just to form that relationship, that leaves a nasty taste in the mouth. Like, make sure your intent is to interview them, to create value for your audience. And if by a product of that, they wind up being interested in learning more about you, your services, or possibly having you do some education, that's fine. But don't let that be the actual main intent of bringing them on your podcast.
Definitely. I know that you're a student of a lot of really great, books and courses and mentorships and masterminds and things like that. Do you have either a favorite book or two or a favorite mastermind or course or something that you would suggest to our listeners?
Yeah. So first of all, in running any business, I think that having an operating system is super important and super valuable. So I'm a big fan of EOS. And so if you haven't read Traction, I highly recommend Traction. There's another great book as it relates to scaling your business called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. I'm a big fan of Dan Martell and I'm part of his coaching program. And I've learned a lot from him, and he's one of my mentors that I look to for ideas and insights.
Love it. And I know you just had the author of a book on financials as well.
Yeah.
So lots
Simple
of
Numbers, Greg Crabtree, amazing Amazing book on really understanding your financials and understanding how to increase your profitability. But he came and just gave us some amazing insights on where the economy's headed and some of the headwinds we're going to be facing as digital marketing agency owners. And he's brilliant. Great crowd.
Love it. Well, tell our listeners, I know you have, a lot of different ways that people can learn from you. So if you're a marketing agency owner, you're looking to get into the game of owning a marketing agency, where can our listeners go to learn more about you? Where would they kind of start their journey with you to just kind of start to absorb some content? I know you do live events, but what would kind of be that starting point that they could start with?
Two places. If you're on Instagram, look me up, follow me. Josh Nelson Coach is my Instagram handle. I'm posting content there on a very consistent basis, and you'll get my latest ideas and thoughts on how to grow and scale your agency. Kind of the entry point where you can get the 7-figure agency model would be with our book, The 7-Figure Agency Roadmap. If you go to 7figureagency.com, you can claim a free copy of that, just pay for shipping. And that's a great place to get started.
That was 7figureagencyroadmap.com?
7figureagency.com. You'll see it as one of the first things on the website.
Perfect. Well, Josh, as always, I appreciate your insights, your time. You always have short, concise, really good takeaways for people to take action. You heard it right from Josh's mouth that one of the most successful traits of the people that are in his inner circle and that are learning from him is speed to implementation. So make sure you re-listen to this, share it, like it, comment, show us some love. Make sure you check out 7figureagency.com as well. Appreciate you very much, Josh. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.